Hi everyone. Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm 2 minutes late. This is what happens when you're juggling getting kids to bed and when you go and do things like go out and go shopping for your teacher's birthday present instead of getting ready for doing your live that you know is coming up. So, hello, and welcome if you're jumping on. Remember to say hi. You can, if you're watching this later, apparently new etiquette is to say replay when you watch it back again later. So you can do that if you can't watch it live. I know I get lots of messages from everyone saying that you listen to it later when you are making dinner or hanging out washing. That's when I get a lot of my learning done as well. So kudos to you for finding a way to listen to something when you don't have time to do it at night. Maybe your kids are running around like mine are. I can still hear them squealing in the bedroom. So hopefully they stay inside at least for 20 minutes. So hello if you've jumped on. Hi Fiona and Hans. Oh, Hans, you always have something nice to say. And Alison, Sam, Nathan, and Sandra as well. Hi guys. So I am really glad you're watching this one. I deliberately made my little ad that I put up today a little bit ambiguous, and I know that I use the word diet. I don't actually like the word diet very much, but I kind of did it because I thought some people might jump on who go, ooh, I'm going to find a new way to lose heaps of weight. And if that is what you want, then keep watching because that is actually part of this, but it's not the whole part of it. And I want to really drop some huge, I want the purpose with every one of these lives really is for just someone, anyone, one person to get an aha moment that causes one tiny chain reaction of change. And I've been getting lots of messages lately. I've been doing these lives for almost a year, and I've been getting lots of messages lately from people just randomly saying, hey, I just want to let you know I've been watching and I've changed this and this has happened and my energy is back and I've lost this much weight, and it's amazing to hear. So always feel free to reach out and say hi and let me know what's happening and where you're at. And the other thing I want to say too that I always forget to say is if you do get an aha moment, if there is something that you learn from any tiny speck of anything that you get from this, feel free to share this, because it's only by sharing it with other people in your world that change is going to happen, that the message is going to get around. You know, if you found that there's one thing that you got from it that someone else might get from it, then just share it. And it takes 1 second to click share, but maybe someone in your world will watch it, hear even just 10 seconds of it. You know, they might just, you know, whatever you call it, scrub through it and see something. And that might be the one thing that changes something in their life that might stop them from getting some terrible disease down the track. You don't know. So it's always worth clicking a share if you think that someone else might benefit from some of the things that I'm trying to bring to you every week. So yes, so hi everyone else who's jumped on, Anita and Vicky and Kim and Shani and Mila. So lovely to see you guys. You can give me a wave and a hello, and you can write anything you want. I always encourage conversation, and I do ask questions as I go through too, so I can see where you guys are at. Okay. So I'm Pauline Hatch. I haven't even said who I am yet. It's 3 minutes in. And I'm just well, I've been for 5 years a researcher and a journalist and a writer, and I've been studying and researching and understanding health for about 10 years now. And my fringe has gone all funny. Yeah, that's fine. And I do these lives just to kind of bring together some of the information that I'm learning and the stuff that I'm doing and what I'm putting into my own family, because we've seen such massive transformation in our health over the past couple of years. I went from having adrenal fatigue, being so exhausted I couldn't even, the idea of hanging out washing was too much for me. So to get to the point now where I just feel so much better, to see our kids thriving, to see conditions that they've had disappear, to see them have immune systems that are so strong. Like our kids got a cold, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. They didn't even have a day off school. Like I wasn't even really sure if they had a cold or not. They just had like 1 day of being stuffy. One of our kids had a runny nose for a couple of days. That's what a cold looks like to us now, because we've made such transformation in our lives that their immune systems are absolutely rocking. Like these are kids in primary school. So yes, anyway, the point of that was to say, this is why I'm here, just to sort of start sharing some of this so we can see change happening in more and more families. Before I go into what the WFPB diet is, I'm going to give you some info first. I'm going to set it up a little bit tonight. I have a very specific reason for doing this. But first I want to tell you about a study that was done in 1984 when I was 4 years old. This study was done by a guy named Dr. Esselstyn. He was a cardiologist, and he wanted to see if diet could reverse heart disease. So he found 18 men who all had advanced heart disease, and used angiograms and things like that to make sure that they did have advanced heart disease. And they had over the 8 years prior to the start of this study, they'd had 49 cardiac events happen, so heart attacks or bypass surgeries, things like that. So they were very sick men. And so they went on this study. They said, okay, we'll follow this particular diet. And Dr. Esselstyn released the findings of that study after 5 years and then after 12 years. And the findings showed, the results were that of those 18 men, only one of them in that 12-year period had a single heart condition, like had any kind of anything happen in terms of it being related to heart disease. And the one guy who did have some kind of heart disease related event was the guy who just stuffed the diet and went, I'm not doing it anymore. And he's the one who ended up having some kind of heart attack or something like that. And all of the other 17 had nothing. Now, that study was done in 1984. And those men in 2012, which was the last update that I could find on it, would have been in their mid-80s. They were in their mid-50s back when they did the study. So they would be in their mid-80s back in 2012. And all but 5 of them were still alive. And the 5 that had passed away did not pass away from heart disease-related deaths. Now, these are men who had advanced heart disease. And yet 30, 40 years later, they're still rocking in their mid-80s because they changed their diet and they had no further events related to their heart disease at all. I wanted to share that first because I really want, and actually I'm going to share one more thing before I tell you what the WFPB diet is. The reason that I really want you to invest in this a little bit is because I know that when I start saying what this is, there are people who are going to keep scrolling, right? Because sometimes when we are faced with something that means we have to change stuff and maybe not do stuff that we currently do, it's a little bit confronting for people. So I want you to hear some results from this before I actually tell you what this is and we go through it, okay? The other thing I want to tell you is, okay, there's a guy who's really cool. His name's, I don't know what the T stands for, but Colin Campbell. And he's about 80-something years old now, and I've been listening to some of his audiobooks, and he is hilarious. He's got a super dry sense of humor. He sounds exactly like an octogenarian. But he's a guy who has been involved in nutrition and health for over 50 years. This guy has done everything. Like, he's studied nutrition at scientific, like teeny tiny levels, all the way through to looking holistically at entire countries. He's worked in universities teaching on nutrition. He even helped to put together some of the guidelines around what we eat, except that he was always outvoted and he never got any of his guidelines in because nobody made money from the suggestions that he was making. Okay, but that's a whole other Thursday night that we could do on that. But this is something he said about this diet. Now, he actually uses the term WFPB, which is why I used it, because I thought it's kind of fun to use that, even though it's not at all catchy. Like, this is just Mr. Practical coming up with a name, okay? But this is what he says about this eating lifestyle, right? I've used the word diet, but diet in the actual sense that it is a way of eating, right? Fiona says, oh dear, I'm scared. I know, I'm building it up a little bit. I'm going to read this, and then I want to hear you tell me what you think WFPB is, okay? So I'm going to read this. This is what he says. He describes this eating lifestyle as one that prevents 95% of all cancers, including those caused by environmental toxins, prevents almost all heart attacks and strokes, reverses severe heart disease, prevents and reverses type 2 diabetes so quickly and profoundly that after 3 days on this diet, it's dangerous for users to continue to use insulin. Side effects include getting you to your ideal weight in a healthy and sustainable fashion, eliminates most migraines, acne, chronic pain, and intestinal distress, improves energy, and cures erectile dysfunction. And he actually put that last one in. I mean, it obviously it does, but he put it last and then made a huge joke, his own dry humor, saying that alone would probably sell the whole world out of this particular diet category because everyone wants that, you know. That industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Anyway, that's just his little dry humor. Okay, so let's see what everyone thinks, because that's a massive claim that this guy is saying, right? And this is a guy who's been dealing with this stuff for 50 years. So I wanted to read out what he said, because I'm not a doctor. I'm just presenting information, but I'm letting you know that there are people who know a lot of stuff about this, who are saying stuff like that is happening, and they have watched it happen, and they've been watching it happening as early as the 1980s. It's just that we don't hear about this stuff because, like I said before, there's not a lot of money for people in this, because it's so simple and so accessible for people like you and me that big companies can't make money out of it. So that's why they don't tell us about it. Okay. Let's see what everyone said. Anita says, in my experience, challenging people about what they eat is more confronting and unwelcome than talking about religion or politics. Yep, because people don't want to give up their pizza. And there'll be people who will watch this after just having eaten pizza and they'll go, I don't want to know, guilty, 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 I don't want to know, I feel bad. I get it, I do get it. But what I hope is that people hear just enough, just one tiny thing that implants into their mind, and maybe they'll think of it later, maybe down the track. It will, you know, or maybe when something goes really wrong, they'll come back to it and they'll think, oh yeah, that's right. I remember I should probably look at that. Tracy, same, lol. Yes, very true. Oh, hi, Lisa. West Texas Food Bank, says Nathan. No, that would be weird for me to be advocating that. Hi, Vesna. Oh, thanks, Fee. I'm a fantastic presenter. So no one else thinks, okay, let me tell you what it is. When I tell you what this is, you are literally going to face palm because you're going to go, that's so obvious. WFPB, whole food, plant-based. Whole food, plant-based diet. Now stay with me because I'm going to drop some more stuff that you are just going to go, what? Because I really want you to hear this, okay? Because this is, what I'm about to tell you is exactly why this guy, T. Colin Campbell, can say the stuff that he's saying about whole foods and the plant-based world being able to help us prevent and reverse diseases. This is what I want to explain to you. So whole foods are basically just eating foods as close to their natural form as possible. So that means not refined, not processed, packaged, hydrogenated, all that kind of stuff. This is just whole foods. And thank you everyone for all of the lovely likes and hellos and everything that I'm getting. I really love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is things like fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, right? So that whole area. I know a huge sticking point for people about wanting to, about moving more towards eating plant-based diet is that they go, I can't give up my meat. I love my meat. I need to have my meat. I guess I would say about that, just if the goal is to eat more fruits and vegetables, just be aware that if you're loading up your plate with, you know, morning and night or lunchtime and dinner with meat and then just like maybe if you're lucky some vegetables, then your balance is wrong. So probably look more at the balance of what you're eating than stressing out about, oh my gosh, I can't eat meat again, I can't ever live like that. As far as I know, there's no particular guideline around what's acceptable. Is it have to be 90% fruit and veg? I would just say, just look at it. If you're eating meat for almost every meal, you need to cut back. Like there's actually some evidence that shows that too much protein is causing a lot of issues. I don't really want to get into the whole meat thing, but yeah, I would just look at rebalancing. Maybe drop down how much meat you're eating to just a few times a week rather than every meal, or having it be the main element of each dish, because more important than meat, it's not about what you can't eat, it's what you should be eating, and that's more fruits and vegetables. So yeah, I don't want anyone to go, no, I can't do that, and you know, faint in horror because it means no meat. Just focus on more fruits and vegetables, and this is why. Okay, let's look at how people can claim that it prevents and cures diseases. This is why. So has everyone heard of oxidization? So oxidization is the chemical reaction between two elements. So rust on your car is a reaction between water and metal, right? And it creates rust. So when you cut a piece of fruit in half, like an apple or an avocado, it goes brown because that's oxygen reacting with the flesh of that fruit, right? So it goes brown. That's why if you put Glad rope over it really tight, it sometimes doesn't. Okay, so oxidization happens in our body too. It's actually really normal for your body to have oxidization going on. It's actually a beneficial process. It does a few different things, but one of the big jobs, it's kind of almost like a detoxing thing where it takes stuff that shouldn't be in our body and makes it water soluble so we can wee it out. So it helps our body to get rid of refuse that's in there that shouldn't be in there. So oxidization is a good process that's going on. The problem is that if oxidization goes on unchecked, it can actually create free radicals. And free radicals, if they continue to grow and grow, they are the big precursor towards some of the really big diseases that we can get. They make us look older because they make our cells age faster. They promote cancers and they set the wheels in motion for strokes and heart attacks, and they also contribute to autoimmune diseases and just countless other stuff really that you could go on with. That's what happens when we have too many free radicals in our body as a result of oxidization that's not being kept in check, okay? You just bear with me. I'm going to take you through a couple of things here, okay? So there are foods that cause oxidative stress. But the problem is not so much what we are eating that's causing it. It's what we're not eating, which are the things that keep the oxidization in check. Okay, now we're going to go and have a look at some plants. Stick with me. This is going to come around and be awesome. I promise you. Get your face palming hand ready. It's going to happen. Okay, a lesson in plants. Plants also, funnily enough, produce free radicals. And they have created, in a way that we have not within our body, plants have created a way of keeping their free radicals in check by creating these particular compounds that help to keep the oxidization process where it needs to be. So they create free radicals because of the photosynthesis process. So they have these compounds. Can anyone tell me what these compounds are that plant foods have that keeps the oxidization in check and stops those free radicals from taking over? Can anyone think of what they might be called? I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. It takes a few seconds for the comments to come through. I'm gonna see if anyone gets it. I'm gonna give you 5 more seconds. Can anyone think of what it is? Antioxidants. You've heard of antioxidants before, right? They're in blueberries. Everyone goes, blueberries, they're really high in antioxidants and blah, blah. Like, we hear it all the time, but have you ever really thought about what antioxidants are and the role they're playing in your body? So these antioxidants that are in fruits and vegetables, when we eat those, we also get those in our body, and they are what are fighting the free radicals, and they are what are keeping that oxidization process in check so that we don't create free radicals that lead to disease. So I don't care what you're eating. If you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, you are not putting the stuff into your body that is stopping your body from going out of control and heading down the path of disease. That's why I'm saying it's not so much, what are you eating? It's that you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And none of us are. Like, this is not rocket science. We're not eating anywhere near as much of that plant kingdom that we need to be eating. That's why we're supposed to be, like, if you go back to a couple of weeks ago, a live that I did on, on Good Fats, I think, where I talked about the food pyramid, that the first food pyramid we had was created in 1970 something, and they got it so wrong. And they were telling us that we needed to eat more whole grains, wheat, like this is refined white bread that they were telling us to eat as the staple. Like, the bottom of the pyramid was bread. That's what they were telling us to eat, rather than eating the very things that are going to stop, like prevent and help to cure disease. They're telling us to eat bread. Like, this is how wrong we've had it for so long. And if you look around now, like, think about how many people in your world have some kind of disease or have been going through something at some point. Like, it's rampant. It's everywhere. Like, the experiment's been done, the results are in, and it's really bad. And the way to go back and start reversing that and changing stuff for us and our kids is to include more fruits and vegetables into our diet. WFPB. Okay. All right, so let me go back and have a look. Oh, chlorophyll. Well, we do need chlorophyll. That's really good for us, says Alice. Fiona got it, antioxidants. Nathan, 100%. But can we rely on Coles and Woolies, sprays, Roundup, soil mineral depletion? Yeah, that's a really hard one too. And for this message, I wasn't really going to go into that, because I think this message is enough just to say, start making changes towards eating more fruits and vegetables. But yes, what Nathan has said is right. The problem is also that a lot of our fruits and vegetables are really depleted because of the way that we monofarm. They're sprayed with carcinogenic sprays. As we can see from what's been happening with Monsanto, they're getting sued for billions and squillions of dollars because people are dying of cancer because of their sprays. Again, that's another little science experiment that's been done on us, and now we're seeing the results of the experiment, and the experiment is a lot of sickness. And yes, our soils are depleted. But for right now, I would say step one is just to have a look at what's going on in your diet. Are you eating enough fruits and vegetables for your body to be able to keep that oxidative stress in check so that you don't get diabetes or cancer or an autoimmune disease? Like, it's almost crazy simple, and yet it's so hard. And we've kind of been brought up, I sort of mentioned this before with the food pyramid, we've been brought up to fill our plates up with wheat and meat and dairy. Like, that's what most of our meals are made of. If you looked at your day, how many vegetables did you eat today? A lot of what you ate might have been based on breads and things like that. So if we say, well, if this is absolutely the human diet is supposed to be based almost entirely on whole foods, then why don't we eat that way? And the answer is, what would happen to all of the companies who make all of the processed foods that fills up 75% of our local supermarket, like Coles and Woolies? What would happen to the meat industry? What would happen to the dairy industry? What would happen to the refined sugar industry if all of their white sugar crack addicts suddenly didn't have white sugar anymore? Like, what would happen? What would happen to the pharmaceutical industry if they didn't have people to medicate and then give more medications for the side effects of the medications they have to take just so that they can try to keep 1% of their symptoms in check and get through the day? What would happen to all these industries? Well, they would fall over. So that would never happen because those industries have big money and money talks. And people can say, oh, conspiracy theorist, I don't care. Like, gosh, let's just be a bit realistic here. There was a really good doco on Netflix that I watched. It was a couple of years ago and I can't remember which one it was. There was two I watched one after the other and I can't remember. It was either Hungry for Change or there was another one. And there was a guy in it who was a professor, university professor, and he taught nutrition. And he had grown up on a dairy farm, in the 50s or something like that. And he was teaching nutrition at this university. This is in America. And then he started to stumble onto all this research and understanding about how modern dairy was affecting us and the way that it kind of acts as an anti-nutrient, it leaches stuff from us, things like that, inflammation. And so he started to realize, okay, well, we've got it wrong about dairy, like our modern dairy is not good for us. And he changed his course and he started teaching don't have dairy. And then the university, one of their big benefactors was a dairy company. So they went to the university and said, hey, we found out that one of your guys is teaching that people shouldn't eat dairy because it's bad for them. If you let him continue to do that, we'll pull our funding. So then the university said to the professor, you can't teach no dairy because the dairy company is going to take the money away from the university and we need their money. And he said, righto, I'm out of here because I'm not going to live a life of lies. And so he quit his job. But this is what I'm talking about. This is big money. Like, here's a guy who knew that dairy was bad and he wasn't allowed to give the message because money was more important than the message. So this is the kind of world we're living in. This is why we need to start sharing this sort of information, because there's no money in fruits and vegetables. Maybe some farmers, like, that's it. But all of those other industries that are taking up so much space in our food world, they would lose billions and trillions of dollars, as Fiona said. They would fall over. So that's why we have to have a little bit of smarts around what we're listening to, what we're eating, what we think is healthy. We have to question all the time. And I'm not saying, therefore, that I have it 100% right, but I'm just saying let's bring the conversation to the table where we do actually start to question some of the stuff we're told is necessary and true, because there could be some really big money behind that particular message that maybe doesn't have you at its heart, because not many of those big industries do. Yes, it is really sad, Tracy, but the good thing is that the message is getting out, and people like you jumping on and watching this, like, you guys get it, and I know that even if you got one little moment out of this where you went, oh, that's interesting, I'm glad, because it's only by listening and learning and just finding that 1% change. What's one little thing you can change from here? What's one meat food that you could replace, or one meal that you could have without bread? Anything, that little change is going to make a huge difference, especially if you can just continue to make the little changes. So that's what I wanted to share. So if you do have any questions, you can always just message me or whatever. There is a whole food program that my family and I have been following. I said at the start how great our transformation has been in terms of our health. Please just reach out if you want to know more about it, because it really is life-changing. And I'm happy to share info about that. Just, you can write something here in the comments, or you can PM me. Lots of people have been PMing me, and that's fine too. Really happy to have a chat and just let me know how you're going. Like, let me know what's happening. You never know, I might have some resources or studies or something that I can give you that I've researched in the last 11 years or whatever. So I'm really happy to do that. And remember, just click share if you thought that this was good enough to share and share with someone else in your world. Then please go ahead and click share and let's spread the message, and you can be part of the revolution. That would be awesome. All right, thanks guys. I will see you next week. Thanks so much for your love. Bye.